Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hello, MotoAmerica fans, and welcome to this latest edition of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I'm Bice here in Central Ohio, and I'm joined by Carruthers in Southern. Did I say Southern Ohio? Central Ohio.
Is it big enough to have a north and a south?
Well, Southern Ohio would be Cincinnati, but technically I'm in Central Ohio, close to Columbus.
I'm in South Rhode Island.
Paul Carruthers is in, for sure, Southern California. So, hey, Paul, how's it going?
It's going good. It's been a really awesome day. I don't know, for those of you that don't know, I'm sure you do by now, but Wayne Rainey was able to ride a motorcycle again for the first time in 26 years, the first time since his accident when he was leading the Italian Grand Prix and leading the World Championship on his way to what looked like a fourth World Championship when he suffered his career-ending injury. And, 26 years later, he threw his leg over a Yamaha R1 and burned some laps at Buttonwillow. And it was an amazing, very touching, emotional day. And today, we released the video from that day, which has interviews with Wayne before and after, and interviews with Yamaha's Keith McCarty. And I'm very proud of how the video came out. Our guy Doug did an amazing job, and I think I know there's a lot of response. There's a lot of people that have seen it, and a lot of people that it brought tears to their eyes, and it's very cool. It's like some of the comments are just amazing, and it's actually it's probably one of the best days I think we've had at MotoAmerica as far as really conjuring up some emotion in our fans and obviously in the Wayne Rainey fans. So yeah, it's been a little tiring day because it's just been hectic, but it's nice to see that. It's nice to reap the rewards of people enjoying what we were able to produce.
We've joked from time to time about whenever we have Wayne do a post, a video or something, he's kind of like our secret weapon when we want to really push the numbers on our social media. And I've said before, it's like, release the Kraken, and he comes out and does that thing. Well, man, when that video came out, and I got to, just for the listeners to know, I won't get into it too much, but I didn't know a thing about this. And I was as emotional as anybody else was to see this. And Paul, when I first saw it, I looked at it and I let it loop a bunch of times, and I just kept sitting there and I was like, I cannot believe it. And it went from me initially not being completely sure that it was Wayne on the bike. I actually thought, because I recognized obviously the Rainey logo on the back of his leathers, but it looked a little different because he's wearing Alpine Stars, and when he raced, he wore Nankai. So that threw me off a minute. And then he's on kind of what's looking like a street version of an R1. So that was a little different. And I was like, is that Cameron Bobier wearing Rainey leathers? And then my wife looked at it, and I finally realized, no, that's really him. And of course I was just wanting to see more, which I can't wait to see, but that must have been something. And this happened at a private test, wasn't it, with Yamaha at Buttonwillow? Is that kind of how it came about?
Yeah, it was. I'll try to keep it relatively short, but I think what happened is he got invited to do this event in Japan. It's sort of a Legends thing at Suzuka. Kenny Roberts will be there, Eddie Lawson. I don't know what other guys, but I'm sure there's some other Grand Prix past legends that will be there. And they invited Wayne, and one of the Aoki brothers also is paralyzed, and they set him up with a motorcycle that had all the same mechanism that Wayne ended up with at his ride here. And they sent Wayne the video. When they originally asked Wayne if he was interested in riding, he turned him down. Then I think it kind of got his interest going a little bit, and when he saw the video, it really got his interest going. And then basically he told them, look, I want to try the bike and see how it feels over here before I make a commitment to actually riding, and in front of a zillion people that will show up to Suzuka to see that kind of thing. So they basically shipped all the stuff over to Yamaha US, and Keith McCarty and the guys put it all together on an R1 and met us at Buttonwillow, and it worked out fine because they were having a test anyway. They had Cameron Beaubier and their new rider Jake Gagne were there riding laps on the Monster Energy Attack Performance Yamahas. So it was kind of cool because Wayne was actually they were sharing the day with some car racing teams, so they would alternate sessions. So when the motorcycles went out, it was actually Wayne and Gagne and Cameron were on the track together, and obviously Wayne was quite a bit slower than them, but it was cool because obviously when they'd catch up to him, they gave him plenty of room and they'd give him the thumbs up, and he thought it was really cool the respect that they showed him. But it's kind of cool when you think about, there was, a couple of, there was 6 or 7 or 8 AMA championships, MotoAmerica championships out at the track, and 3 world championships with just, 3 or 4 guys riding around because Josh Hayes did a few laps as well. So it was kind of cool that it just had a really cool vibe to it because, again, there was nobody there but the people that mattered and the people that were working it, and everybody it was pretty emotional. I mean, when he first went out on the track, it was, I'm going to preface this by saying when he talked to me about it a few weeks ago, I wasn't real hot on the idea. Like I actually told him, I just said, I just don't think it's a good idea. And at the time, I kind of thought he was looking for maybe, an out, like he wanted some, right. But I was speaking from the heart. I mean, I wasn't comfortable with it. I was worried about something happening, and I was worried about him getting hurt, worry about a bunch of stupid stuff. And then he told me, he goes like, I just want to try it. I just want to feel that feeling again and going through the gears. And when he said that, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Just let's just do it. And to see his reaction yesterday at the end of the day, after the first session, you could tell he was a little unsure because it was just so different for him, because he's riding that motorcycle. And if you think about the contact points you have on a motorcycle, it's your feet, it's your legs, it's your butt, and it's your hands. And he doesn't have any of that but his hands. So you can imagine it was a bit daunting for him to take off and leave the pits on this bike where he's, it was just unusual for him. But the first session, I think the first session he questioned it, and then he took a break and went back out in the second session and really had a nice time with it. And that's when he decided that he would go ahead and do the Suzuka event. So,
wow. What is the mechanics? I'm not real specific, but I'm just thinking, like, just how does he start off and stop? How does that even work?
Keith and the Yamaha guys would hold the bike up, and we got him on there and just kind of gave him a little push off. And it was really like he said, when the first time, it was just like, you got your kid on training wheels and you take his training wheels off and you kind of run with him a little bit and give him a push and hope for the best. And that's kind of what we did. Right. And then when he came in, we just they would catch him, and and it was really smooth and I think pretty easy for everybody involved. And the second time he took off, it was just like no problem. He was just off and going. So it didn't have any.
It is kind of. Well, right, and in fact, what I was going to say is, so it was September 5th, 1993 is when he had his accident. And I remember not too many days after that, I remember talking to Bob Starr at Yamaha, and he had said that, he said Wayne's going to try to ride again. And I think you might have some insight on this, Paul, but I had heard that even back then they were trying to figure out how to put outriggers on the bike he wanted to ride. He wanted to get back on a bike or his 500 again. And then, of course, a lot of time passed. And this was, to what it looked like, it was pretty much just a bike that he had some straps to secure some things, but other than that, it was really him doing the whole thing. How did he? There must have been some kind of what kind of a shifter mechanism was there? Something on the handlebars?
It was push button, upshift, downshift on the handlebar, and then they had it set up that translated actually down to the shifter, and that the Japanese company that put that together. And then that stuff's getting taken off that bike that he used at Buttonwillow and getting sent back to Japan. And Yamaha there will set it up on the bike that he's going to ride there, which I believe is also an R1. But it worked pretty well. The system was flawless. I think he was he would like the buttons to be a little closer or something, because he said it was a little difficult sometimes to hit shifts, but it worked really well. It was cool. And like it was very simple the way they did the foot pegs, in that it's like high end road bikes have the clips for your shoes. And that's basically all it was. It was bicycle pedals instead of the foot pegs, and his boot would just snap right in. So it kept his feet in place. But it's also set up much like a bicycle, that if you were to crash, when your foot would slide, it would actually release. So I think it was pretty. It was secure yet safe. And when I saw that, I'm like, wow, that's really smart. It's something pretty simple, but obviously it works well.
I'm always fascinated too when most any rider these days comes back into the pit wall, and there's a guy there that's kind of almost catches the front of the bike and holds it. It's like the same way. I mean, you can almost not put your feet down anyway because the guy's there to hold it. Is that kind of how it worked? Somebody caught him at the end when he came into after his lap.
It's exactly right. Like if you were just an innocent bystander sitting there, I don't even think you'd notice that. That there was any difference between it being Wayne or anybody else. They just pulled up to a stop, and he was real smooth coming in, and they grabbed him, and that was it. It was a piece of cake.
Did you, obviously in the beginning, he was probably taking his time a little bit. Did you feel that he got some speed going as he was doing this?
Yeah, the first session you could tell he was pretty cautious, which, I mean, he was cautious the entire day, as he will be for the rest of the time. But you could tell he was going pretty slow and trying to figure it out, because there's leaning and everything that he's ever done in his life on a motorcycle. This was completely different. So yeah, it took him a little while. The second session was cool because I think the first session they said he got up to like 98 miles an hour, but the second session had to have been 120 or more, because it was cool. He's coming down the straightaway and he's just banging gears, and then you could see when braking for turn one, you could see actually some fairly heavy braking, and it was cool. I mean, that's I'll be perfectly honest, I'm kind of a softie at times, even though people probably don't think I am. But I mean, when he did that first session, I mean, I kind of had to walk by myself down the pit road a little bit just to kind of like get away from everybody, because it was hard not to be emotional.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you had said that Keith McCarty had some involvement in this, but this was mostly the reason for this button wheel thing was the test for Jake Gagne and Cameron. Did Cameron and Jake know that Wayne was going to be doing this?
They didn't know. They didn't know, and then they saw me there, and then Wayne showed up, and at that point they started asking some questions, and people told them. But when I talked to Gagne and Cameron, they were just like, "Oh man, this is the coolest freaking thing!" And they were really pumped for him. And I know Cameron reached out to him in a text later that night and told him how cool it was to have him on the track and stuff. So I just think it meant a lot to everybody, and it just kind of showed. I don't know, it just had a really nice feel to it the whole day. You could tell everybody was just into it and happy and sad, and it was just a range of emotions. But it was right. It was really cool, because obviously, by the time the day ended, it was nothing but a happy, festive day, and everybody had smiles on their faces, including Wayne.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, October 23rd, he turned 59. He's 59 years old now, so that's a pretty big deal for anybody at 59 years old to be on an R1 on a track and do that. I mean, it's just, and of course he's going to now do this thing at Suzuka, but I wonder if he'll want to do some more if he'll want to ride beyond that more, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, he's got some buddies up where he lives in Carmel that go on weekend rides and stuff. And, I bet he'd like to join in with them sometime and make that happen. I mean, the bike would have to have some sort of outriggers for him when he came to stoplights and things, but I think now that he sees that, what's actually possible and how well the equipment works, it might be something that he wants to do every once in a while.
It's one of those things too. I always got a sense when he and Eddie Lawson did the shifter cart thing, and Eddie was really into it. And of course, Wayne's dad, helped with the development of the cart that Wayne rode. And I always got a sense that it was cool for those guys to do the kart, but obviously a shifter kart is not a motorcycle, and it's, it wasn't quite like what really Wayne wanted to be doing. And so, whereas Eddie raced in IndyCar for a while, so he had some car racing experience, and I just can't imagine after 26 years to be able to finally do this. And it probably, I don't know, in some ways can maybe make him feel like he can relate even more to what's going on nowadays. He's obviously got the memory of when he raced, but to have that feel again, even though it's a different feel than it was, it's still got to make him feel pretty good about kind of being part of it again that way. That brotherhood, so to speak. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. I think the shifter kart thing filled a void at the time.
Yeah.
But as you said, it's not the same for him as actually riding a motorcycle, because that's really all he's ever done, until the accident. So yeah, I think it was a really big day for him. And him, he's so modest and
yeah,
it just kind of rolls off his back. But I could tell, like, I guarantee when he went home by himself, with Shay and stuff on the night that the ride happened, I bet he laid in bed and had not only had a smile on his face, but, actually kind of took in what the day, meant to him and to everybody else. So it was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. The weather was good that day. Was it cool or was it nice weather? What was it like?
It was perfect. It was, low 80s, no wind. It was just a stunning day. I mean, we got up really early and started driving so we could get through LA without too much traffic. And I think we got there at 7:30 in the morning, and it was beautiful, and we got all set up, and then Wayne got in and we got him all suited up, and he got to go out for a couple of sessions. So it was cool.
That's really cool. So we've seen that during this off season, some of the teams have tested. I know that Westby Racing has tested a couple times. I think this was and we knew from talking with Jake when we had our podcast with him that he was going to test with his new team, and they were going to test side by side the bike that JD rode, and then obviously the bike that Yamaha had last year. And at this test, let's talk about that a little bit with Jake and Cameron. Is that what they did do? Did they each go out on both of the bikes? And is that what you saw?
I think, again, my main focus was on the Wayne deal. It looked to me as though, that Jake was just working, that was riding 90% of the time on Garrett's old bike. And I think I saw him on Cameron's old bike, or not old bike, but the standard, the bike that he rode last year or this year.
Right.
And Cameron I saw on both bikes, which would have been his bike from this year and also the Attack bike. But
so you did see him riding the Attack bike?
Yeah, then. I don't think Gagne rode the Attack bike at all. I think they were just getting him up to speed with, seeing what the bike felt like and getting everything positioned the way he needed it. But he looked really good on the bike. I mean, obviously Cameron always looks good, but considering it was his first time, Jake looked good, and I didn't pay attention to their lap times or anything, so I'm just going by visuals. But no, they look comfortable, and he seemed happy. I talked to Jake briefly, and he was over the moon that he's got this opportunity. And it was funny. He was like, "Yeah, I've never been inside that trailer before," and I was joking with him. I'm like, "You haven't had any trailer before," so he was.
I don't think you're right.
Well, that's not true. I mean, Danny Walker had a big semi and stuff, but this is going to be it's going to be different for him. He's going to really be able to just focus on himself and his riding, and know that everything else is taken care of. The bike will show up ready to go, and there's going to be somebody that can continue to keep it going and make it as best they can for him, so he can really just focus on him and racing his motorcycle, which makes a big difference to those guys.
It's funny. Afterwards, I could see some of the guys I follow on Facebook, like Mike Canfield, who worked with Garrett this year, put out a pretty emotional post about what he saw with Wayne. And I even saw Steve Rounds did it too, who works on that team as well. So I know what I'm getting from that is not only the fact that it was emotional for those guys too, who are, around our age. So they're Wayne's a hero of theirs as well, but also the fact that they're there and part of this team, and presumably will be this year. So it sounds to me, and what you're saying with regard to the truck, the lounge, so much of what they did last year is going to be similar going forward. Does that seem like that to you?
I didn't give it much thought when I was there, honestly.
Right.
I mean, the attack truck was there and the Yamaha truck was there, so it
Oh,
was
okay.
just sort of like, yeah. So they had both trucks there, so it wasn't, I couldn't deduct anything from what was actually going on, and also, it's, uh, um, I got a chance to talk to Mike Canfield a little bit, and it seemed like he's, secure and having a job, but he was the only one I actually posed the question to or talked to about it. So the other guys, who knows? I mean, the other guys could be contracted through the end of the year and not coming back, or they could be coming back. So I don't think we can make any, we can't, who knows,
Yeah, until
but,
it happens, right?
it was good to see those guys again. And yeah, everybody looked like they're having a good day. And I think the Wayne thing just really added a lot to the whole thing. The Yamaha guys were coming back the next day to test, so they would have been on their own, but, we were only there for the one day with Wayne.
Did you get when you talked to Mike? I mean, like what I was saying about how emotional he sounded in the post on Facebook about what he saw. Did he share that with you? And could you see that when he was there?
Yeah, I was actually fortunate enough to be standing with Wayne when Mike came up and had a little chat with him, and he was very emotional and he had some heartfelt things to say to Wayne, and it was really cool. I mean, it just showed that, like you said, we're of the age where we know what Wayne did, and we were there for when Wayne did it, and those guys are in the same boat. They're in the same age group as us, and yeah, you could see that it really meant a lot to him. Like when Wayne went out, everybody was on the pit wall, and when he came by for the first time, people were just clapping, and it was pretty cool. Well, it's funny because going up there, leading up to going up there is like, yeah, this is a big deal, but it's weird. I didn't think it was as big a deal as what you actually felt when it was happening.
Mm.
And then you're like, wow, this is a huge deal. And then when you see, we put a little teaser clip out on social media, and then when you see the reaction from our fans and from Wayne's fans and all over the world, you tend to forget what he has a following worldwide, and that's, the numbers are just amazing and the comments are amazing, and it's pretty impactful what he was able to do, and I think it had an impact on a lot of people's lives. Again, like I said, he's modest and stuff, but when I talk to him, I'm like, yeah, you just don't know how big this is and how meaningful it is to people, and and that's true.
The teaser, one of the things I loved about how you guys did that, and it's one of the things I remember. Wayne was one of the first riders back then. Well, some of them had helmet designs. Not a huge amount did, but Wayne always had a pretty recognizable helmet design that evolved. But the one thing about him is he had an absolute logo for his name that I always loved anyway. And, it was very recognizable from back then. And he obviously had it on the back of these leathers. And you guys, I love how in the teaser, it kind of focused on that. And that logo represents him so much. And it still looks such a cool logo even today after all this time. It was cool that you guys did that and recognized it. And that's a thing that's an actual logo that does exist, right? That was designed for him. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it was designed for him. And he got the artwork to Alpine Stars, and of course they included it in the leathers. And then we ended up going full circle because we needed the artwork back, so they sent it back to us, and we were able to include that at the end of the video. But you're right. I mean, it's a pretty iconic logo, and it's funny. It looks so current today, and and it was 30 years ago. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, that's what we knew with that. We knew with the including that logo on his back in that teaser, and that it would have some impact. People would be like, what the heck,
Yeah.
And it was cool. His gear looked really good. He looked stylish as he used to when he raced, and it all came together well.
So a couple of years ago, Shoei came out with a new version of that. I forget what number they're on now, X11 possibly, of the Rainey helmet. It's got a little difference to the back of it with the aerodynamics. But did he wear that helmet, the new Shoei helmet, in his design?
Yeah, he had. It was a brand new Shoei with the older design. But yeah,
that's so cool.
And again, that helmet design looks as good today as it did then. So
Yeah, it's iconic. I mean, it's just amazing. And, it's funny. You probably saw, I didn't even talk to you about this, but the next day, when I was doing the Throwback Thursday, I had this photo of Robbie Peterson. And I didn't mean to like step on the thing with Wayne, but it was kind of funny that Robbie wore the leathers that he wore in 91. He wore the leathers that he wore. I'm sorry. In 92, he wore the leathers that he wore in 91 when he raced in Formula USA on a YZR 500 in those iconic Marlboro leathers. And in that photo, Robbie's wearing a different color variation, but a version of Rainey's helmet, the X8 back then. And it's kind of funny 2 days in a row that we kind of went with that iconic look. And I didn't really intend it to be that way, but it was kind of cool that it sort of related. Did you get a kick out of that? I didn't even ask you after I posted that.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it was cool when I came in and saw the Throwback Thursday, because I have a lot of respect and admiration for Robbie Peterson, and I like all the Peterson family, and they're good people. And so it was kind of cool to see that, and it actually tied in real nice to the thing we did with Wayne. And yeah, it was very cool. But yeah, I remember Robbie in those leathers and riding those two strokes, and it was cool to see that photo again.
So regarding some other things in the news I wanted to talk to you about, we're getting towards the end of this podcast. I wanted to ask you, so we've seen a few of our riders that are starting to do some things on an international scale. We put out some information about Dallas Daniels when he raced in Supersport 300 a couple weeks ago, and it was great to be able to get some reports every day from Dallas. It didn't go all that well for him, but he did race and stayed upright and things like that. So on, I think what was a fairly underpowered bike, but he was pretty psyched about continuing to do that. And then we got word, Brandon Posh, who had won his championship in I think, what is it called? What's the championship in England? Is it MotoStar or something that he?
I just know it's 300, and it's like it's the equivalent of Moto 3. So
Moto 3, yeah. Okay. And I think that series, I think they're done with that class, I think. So he won. I don't know a lot about it, whether there's been a couple of those, but he won that championship and earned himself a right to race in Spain. Is it this weekend?
Yeah,
he's racing?
I think it's this weekend. He's doing a race in Spain, and actually, I think it's with Moto 2. And it's not a Grand Prix, but it's the big Spanish series. So it'll be interesting to see how he does there. He told me that, and we're going to have him on a podcast here in a couple of weeks. We've just got to sort out the timing, but I told him we'd wait until he knew what he was doing for next year, because he's got a couple of different offers. But the Moto 2 bike will definitely fit him a little bit better, because he told me that he really has to squeeze into that Moto 3, because he's turned into be a pretty tall kid.
It's crazy to see him on that thing. It's like he's riding around on a football. His whole back end up in the air.
Looks like a monkey screwing a bowling ball is what it looks like. But
that's basically what I was thinking too. He can't even be in the C section, which I suppose trying to be as streamlined as he can be, but he's a taller kid. It's amazing how quick he's grown, and I'm sure the Moto 2 bike will fit him a little better, but it might still be a little bit small. But the biggest thing I'm thrilled about is the fact that we've seen him, testing on an R6 for Celtic HSBK Racing. So, boy, I hope he races in Supersport next year. Has he let on to that at all? Whether he's going to do that?
When I talked to him, it seems like he's got a few offers here and there. Some are in BSB, and then obviously here, and then maybe some Spanish series stuff. But he was pretty undecided, and that's why I told him we'd talk to him in a few weeks for the podcast, so that when he finally knew what he was doing. But I think we'll definitely see him, if not for the entire MotoAmerica season. I think we'll see him, a few times for sure.
Yeah, it'd be great to see him, because he's a good rider. And even when he raced, I think he did around it. I think it was Road America possibly last year. And came in, and he did that same thing the year before that for that TSE team. And then, of course, yesterday we got the press release and put it out about Sean Dillon Kelly. It's interesting. It was a press release done by Team Hammer, who is his current and I suppose future Supersport team. He was a rookie in our series this year with M4 X-Star Suzuki, and they put out a press release about essentially giving him permission to race next weekend at Valencia in Moto 2, correct?
Moto 2.
With that American race. Yeah. And that's kind of a nice symmetry because he's going to be racing with Joe Roberts as a teammate. And truly, the team is American Racing, and they're going to have two American racers on those bikes in that round. So that'll be nice to see, and it'll be really cool for Sean Dillon Kelly for sure.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's funny how of late we've just started to see some of the momentum that the MotoAmerica series has with these kids are not all kids, but these guys getting an opportunity to go ride overseas, and it all comes back to what Wayne really wanted when we started this thing, was to give these guys an opportunity and get them to the point where they're noticed by international teams that would want to give them an opportunity. So it's really cool. I texted a little bit with Sean Dillon yesterday, and you can tell he's excited and happy to be doing it. And he'll go over there and yeah, he'll have another American in the garage with him, in Joe Roberts, and it'll be interesting to see how those guys do. But yeah, it's good that they're getting the opportunities. And then I Garrett Gerloff's over at the big motorcycle show over there. I saw some photos of him today with his team and his new bike and all that stuff. So yeah, it's good. I mean, it's fun to follow those guys and watch them, get an opportunity to do some different things. And it'll be fun to watch Moto2 from Valencia, and keep an eye on those guys. And I can tell already from the input we've gotten from our fans, it's like, it's going to be it's going to be a good boost for World Superbike having Garrett there as far as the American audience, because you know what it's like. I mean, you like to, you may not know Garrett, but if you're a fan of the series and you've gone to our races and you watch him on TV, you feel like you know him, and it gives you an opportunity to have somebody to really pull for in the World Superbike Championship that we haven't really had. So, yeah, it's good. I'm pumped for these guys when they get the opportunity to go do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been for me, I think back, I mean, certainly for you and I, and it's different for you because you were ingrained in the team, but as a fan for me, I mean, obviously Kenny Roberts got me interested in World Grand Prix racing, which, led to Eddie and Kevin, and certainly Wayne is the one that really caught on for me. And I watched every race he was in, and I was kind of, then World Superbike, it took Colin Edwards a little bit for me to get real involved in it and see how that went. And it's always nice when an American is in it, because you can be a fan. And I know we're both MotoGP fans and World Superbike fans, but when you got an American in there to root for as well, it just makes it all that much better. And I wish him all luck. And I just think it's terrific now to see this mission of MotoAmerica being really fulfilled, and some of these guys getting noticed. And I know they're doing a lot to make it happen as well, but certainly the momentum that we've got with MotoAmerica has certainly helped them for a lot. I know it was the case with Garrett, for sure. So I'm really happy to see it. You want to have, we still have a lot of talent in the series that we're developing along the way, but you like to kind of see these guys leave the nest a little bit. There's a lot of stuff that has to be kind of in place. There's some musical chairs going on. I've been trying to figure out for a while, since Jake Gagne left Scheibe Racing, got permission. Well, talked to Steve about it. It wasn't permission, but Steve, wished him well, Steve Scheibe. They've got to fill that seat. I keep hearing different riders maybe involved in that. I occasionally talk to Andrew Lee's dad, and I know you talk to the riders here and there, but there's a lot of things that have to come into place, like we mentioned regarding Celtic HSBK, what PJ Jacobson's doing this year. But it seems like it's one of those things where every year, a lot of pieces have to go in place, and some people don't know what they're doing because other riders, they don't know what they're doing are they filling their place, or are they going somewhere else? It's always interesting, isn't it, in the off season, that you never know where everybody's going to end up, but it's starting to come together now.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I mean, it'll take a little bit more time, but it'll all come together, and it does make it more fun. It's, if everybody continues to stick with the same team they're with, and it's just the same thing over and over, it's not as exciting as when there's some movement. And that's the whole thing. If we can get, if we get some more teams and we get some more bikes in here, and we get guys going to Europe and then other guys moving up to replace them, and you get that whole cycle going, then we're suddenly back to where we were in the quote unquote good old days when there were a lot of factory riders and a lot of movement between teams, and maybe one team would steal another team's rider, and that's exciting stuff, and the fans like to read about that. And watch that, as it goes on in the off season. So the fact that we're starting to get a little bit of that more back into the series, it's good, and it makes it more fun for everybody.
One of the things I want to talk to you about, Paul, at the end of this podcast is this new wrinkle that you've added to MotoAmerica, which I'm completely 100% jealous about, because as I mentioned, I'm not in Southern Ohio, but I'm in Ohio, and logistically I can't really be in this Costa Mesa office where you are when you've been recording the Riders Turn segments, but they look like they're a lot of fun and they've been really popular. It sounds like you're going to do some more coming up. Tell us some insights on that, what that's like to sit with the rider, and do you get a sense that it seems like the riders enjoy it? The one you've done with Herrin and Gerloff, it looks like a chance for them to sit down and kind of talk about a race is as much fun for them as it is for us to watch it. Would you say that's the case?
Yeah, I think they've enjoyed it. I mean, I think we started with the right guy, with Josh Herrin, because not only was he close, but he kind of has a pretty good grasp of that, and I didn't have to do a lot of explaining for him to get on board and kind of know what we were looking to do. And he did a good job with the first one, and then we had something to show the other guys. So when I tell Tony Elias about it, I'm able to send him the clip of Josh so that he understands what it is. He's in Europe now for a couple of weeks, and then he's going to come in and we'll do the same thing. He'll choose a race, and we can go through that. I'm trying to get Cameron to come next week, and he'll also choose a race, and we can talk about that. But I think, from a fan standpoint, I just think it's something that's different. I don't recall seeing it. I'm not going to say in any sport, but nothing comes to mind where I've actually been able to see the star of whatever it was, whether it was a game or a race or something, actually, explain why they did this and how this came about, and just actually like talk to me as a fan and explain what they were thinking. You're always hearing commentating from commentators, and that's great, but it's always a little different to hear it, from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So I think it's been interesting. It's been fun to do. It's fun for me to sit there, and, my job is really just to kind of moderate it and keep things going by, asking them questions that I would think maybe the fan doesn't know, or I don't know. So that's how I look at it in my role, is to just try to keep them talking and try to pull some things out of them that maybe they wouldn't ordinarily say. But no, it's good, and it's been well received so far. I think the people like it, and we're going to continue to do it. If nothing else, we're at least going to do all the Superbike winners. I got to get JD out here, JD Beach, and like I said, we've got Tony and Cameron scheduled to do it. And it's cool. It really is. It's fun, and again, our guy Doug here has set up the studio real nice, and we just go in there and hammer it out and see where it goes. And it's kind of cool. I think they've been really. I think the guys that we've had so far have been really honest and talkative, and they've explained some things. And if I sit there, I figure if I'm sitting there and I'm learning something, then our fans are learning something as well. So very good.
Yeah, you mentioned that they don't really do this in other sports. The only thing I've ever seen is occasionally they'll have like a guy talk about an at bat they had and they'll show it, or they'll have a quarterback talk about a play. They don't really do a whole game, but I know for a fact, because you're as much of a football fan, NFL fan as I am, I know you'll know this. Do you remember the clip that they showed of, I think it was a Super Bowl that Joe Montana was in, where he was out in the huddle and all of a sudden he realized John Candy was in the crowd? And do you know about that?
No.
Oh,
no.
It's one of the funniest things I ever saw. Joe Montana's sitting there, and they were at, I don't know what Super Bowl it was. I can't remember at this point, but he was in the huddle and he was getting ready to run the play, and all of a sudden he happened to catch out of the corner of his eye John Candy, the comedian, was in the crowd, and he goes, "Hey guys, look, there's John Candy," and they all kind of turned around and pointed at him.
That's funny.
It was one of those insights into, in the middle of a Super Bowl,
right,
that he would suddenly do that. And that's kind of the impression I got, more from Herrin than from Gerloff. But the fact that some of the stuff that Josh Herrin said he was thinking about during that race surprised me. And it was kind of delightful to go, why? He was really thinking about that at that moment. We've gotten a little bit of insight on that before with Josh, because we've heard Josh say that sometimes he'll be looking at the the screen, the Jumbotron, to see where a rider behind him is. It always makes me laugh. What's on his mind along the way? So I love that feature, and I can't wait to, Tony will be great too. I mean, for sure. Any of the riders will be really good to just see what they're thinking, but especially through a whole race, because that part where, for instance, when Heron said on the start line, he always feels a little bit sick and everything, it's like he never gets used to it. So it's great stuff. We got to keep that going for sure.
Yeah, and I think it just shows that, they're just like the rest of us. They get nervous, they get this, they get that. I think, there's a lot of differences with them. And I think that's probably why they're as good as they are. Because when I'm sitting there talking to them and I try to picture myself as them, I would overthink the crap out of it, and it would probably make me slower. Where they
I would too.
They don't overthink things. I think things come at them a lot slower than what they would come at us just because they're used to it. And it's so, I think it's interesting, especially I think it's got to be interesting to a track day guy, especially if there's going to be guys that do track days at some of the tracks that we go to that actually can listen to Cameron Beaubier talk about his race at that track. I think that's got to be really interesting to somebody like that. But as far as like other sports go, and I mean, I love the NFL when they have those guys mic'd up, because it's just like, I feel like it puts you down on the sidelines, or it puts you in the game that you're not. It's stuff that you're not privy to normally, So I think it makes it fun. And this is kind of like that. What this is, we have these guys mic'd up for an entire race. Okay, the race has already happened, but they can kind of relive it and tell us exactly what was going on.
Yeah, it's a great feature. I'm looking forward to more of that. And if you're saying Tony Elias and, JD, I mean, it'll be great and Cameron, of course, hearing what those guys have to say. And each of them are such different guys that it's going to be great to get their perspective on that along the way. We'll have to see if when you do it with Tony, Paul, if he's going to jump up on the table or, what he might be doing during the thing. So.
Yeah. Again, it's my job to kind of get him going, and I try to give him crap whenever I can and make him laugh, and we can have a little bit of fun with it, and it kind of loosens him up, and you kind of, end up finding out some stuff that maybe you wouldn't ordinarily find out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's fun to do. And we'll get those other guys in here and get them going, but it'll be good.
Yeah, it'll be really good.
It's also, it's really good content for the off season. People are missing the races, and this gives them another chance to see the races again, but with a completely different twist. So, yeah.
And I think we've gotten a lot of good, favorable comments from people that are getting to see the races when we run them on Facebook and YouTube too. It's nice that we're able to do that during the off season and, kind of continue it year round. And it's great for people to, even if they, certainly a lot of people that saw it when it happened or watched on MotoAmerica Live can rewatch it. And then these people that maybe didn't can see it and go, maybe next year I really need to watch these races when they happen. So it's a great thing that we're doing all year round for us.
Yeah, it's I'm thrilled with all the stuff that we've got going on. It's already been our best off season ever, and it's going to continue to be the off season as we move into what I like to call the preseason instead of the off season.
Yeah, it won't be long.
Yeah, we're here. No, it's kind of scary, I think our homepage now on the website has a countdown clock. I was looking at it the other day and I'm like, oh no. But it's always fun. I got to ride bicycles the other day with Josh Heron, which is he just moved like 3 miles from the office. So I've got the chance to ride bicycles with him a couple of times, and some of the other guys will start to make their way through town, and they always stop in and say hello. So it's kind of fun.
That's amazing. I love it. You're in a good spot. I'm jealous.
Yeah. That's okay. You're in southern or northern or central or eastern or western Ohio. You can't complain.
27 degrees here today, as a matter of fact. But it is sunny.
I think it's 82 and sunny here.
It's cold everywhere, but it's never cold in Southern California. It's like room temperature always. I can't get over it. So, but anyway, hey.
Well,
Paul, we did about 45 minutes worth of podcast. Just you and I, we can carry on. No problem.
Yeah. If it was you and me every week, we could get to 2-3 hours, but we can't allow that to happen. And we've got a good guest coming up next week. I'm not going to say who it is. And then we'll Yeah, it's fun. We get to schedule new people every week and chat with them, and it's all good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. We have great guys in our series.
So you can cut me off now.
Well, you can do the closing if you want. I did the opening.
All right, I'll do the closing. Well, thank you for joining me. Again, I'm pumped on what we got to do with Wayne. I'm really happy for him. It was amazing to watch. It was amazing to be a part of, and it's also nice that today we get to share that with the rest of the world, and the responses we've been getting from that have been amazing. And it was nice to chat with you today. And thanks to our listeners for being loyal and hearing us out every single week. Whether we have a guest or whether we're just boring with you and me, but it's kind of cool, and they seem to like it. And I will be back with you next week, and we'll do it again, Sean.
Okay, sounds good, Paul. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
All right, you have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Again, Sean.